Hi, this is another edition of Stuart Dahl Show, starring myself, Stuart Dahl. I'm coming to you live from my house right here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, where the current temperature is 18 degrees. And that, what else? Now let's just get right into my show. I'm going to be talking to you about the most bloody siege in history, the Siege of Leningrad, which lasted 872 days, from September 8th, 1941 to January 27th, 1944. And it cost the lives of millions of civilians in Leningrad itself, and cost the lives of thousands upon thousands of Soviet troops, and not only that, German troops and their Finnish allies, and that. Like I said, the siege of Leningrad is known as the Leningrad blockade, which was a prolonged military blockade undertaken by an Army Group North, commanded by Field Marshal Wilhelm von Lieb. And the total objective of the siege of Leningrad. It was a part of the German military German army, the Wehrmacht's plan of destroying the Soviet, crushing and destroying the Soviet Union. At the start of Operation Barbarossa, which began on June 22nd, 1941, the whole aim of this, Germany had about 3.2 million troops. Yeah, you heard me correctly. 3.2 million troops, and I believe about 500,000 Axis troops to the Soviet border. And the whole aim of Operation Barbarossa, because of the amount of troops that the German army, the Wehrmacht, had, about because of its size, the 3.2 million troops. Excuse me. Anyways, they had to split it into three army groups. Army Group North struck towards Leningrad, which was a key industrial city in the war on the Eastern Front, because of the significance, because it produced tanks in the city of Leningrad, and any tanks that were immobilized were used as gun emplacements in the factory in Leningrad. And then Army Group Center struck towards Moscow, the then Soviet capital, and it's still the capital of Russia today. And then Army Group South was supposed to strike towards the rich farmland of Ukraine, and thus, with the objective of completely crushing the Soviet Red Army. But unfortunately, the Soviet Red Army had other plans. Like I said, the Soviet Red Army had other plans, and that, and even though the Soviet Red Army was, as some people thought, completely defeated, they were gonna, it was a matter of time before they surrendered. But no, basically the Soviet Red Army, they literally fought to the death, basically, for not only for their home country, but the objective they wanted to conduct is they literally wanted to push the entire German army back to the borders of Germany, and they exactly did that, because the turning point for Germany on the Eastern Front was the defeat at Stalingrad, and because of that, Because of that defeat for the German army, they never regained the initiative again. And that's why the siege in Leningrad, is the most bloody siege in history. It lasted from September 8th, 1941 to January 27th, 1944. And millions and millions of people suffered in that. Civilians, Soviet troops and that, because there wasn't, enough food and water and ammunition, especially like for the troops and that. But they had the will. They would not give up. And Joseph Stalin, the then Soviet dictator, had issued certain directives. Basically, there shall not be no retreat, not a step back, was the battle cry of the Soviet Red Army. And basically back then, any troops, any officers and that disobeyed that order were shot by the Soviet secret police, the NKVD, better known as the KGB. Yeah. So, although the Soviets in the siege of Leningrad, known as the Leningrad blockade, managed to open a narrow corridor that became known as the Road of Life, because of well, I'm trying to think. Because that Road of Life came vital over Lake Ladoga to the safety and the well-being for the citizens and that of Leningrad. What else? Anyways, other than that, the Soviet Red Army eventually fought back with devastating firepower and overwhelming amount of troops. Excuse me. Like I said, the siege of Leningrad, better known as the Leningrad blockade, like I said, was a prolonged military blockade conducted by Field Marshal Wilhelm von Leeds' Army Group North. At first, it did succeed over the years in that, but unfortunately, the Soviet defenders were so stubborn enough that eventually, on January 27th, 1944, the siege was lifted, thus ending the most bloody siege in history. What was I gonna say? Anyways, other than that, all over Russia, and that they're celebrating. Well, I wouldn't really call it a celebration because Soviet civilians and that suffered tremendously through the siege of Leningrad and that. Because millions of civilians died because, unfortunately, there was a storage with food reserves and that unfortunately was burnt to the ground, and the glow could be seen for miles in Leningrad. Unfortunately, like I said, unfortunately, thousands upon thousands of civilians died in the siege of Leningrad. So, right now, we all should be remembering the sacrifices of not only the Soviet Red Army, but we should be remembering to, even though, in those days, it was when Adolf Hitler was in power in Germany, it was the darkest chapter in German history. But we also don't have to not forget, the sacrifices of the German army and from Germany's allies, the Finnish, the Romanians, the Italians, and that. But despite despite that, um, despite that, despite that, the siege of Leningrad, like I said, was the most brutal in history because of the scale and magnitude of the siege. And what was I gonna say? And then on the 6th of August, Hitler repeated this order: Leningrad first, the Donetsk basin second, Moscow third. From August 1941 to January 1944, anything that happened between the Arctic Ocean and Lake Leman consecrated the German the Wehrmacht's Leningrad siege operations. Arctic convoys that, using the northern sea route, delivered American-led lease and British food and war material supplies to Murmansk railhead. Although the rail link to Leningrad was cut by the Finnish armies just north of the city, as well as several locations in Lapland. The Finnish intelligence broke some of the Soviet military codes and was able to read their low-level communications. This particularly helpful for Hitler, who consistently requested intelligence information about Leningrad. Finland's role in Operation Barbarossa was laid out in Hitler's Directive 21. The mass of the Finnish army will be tasked in accordance with the advance made by the northern wing of the German arms of tying up maximum Russian strength by attacking to the west or on both sides of Lake Ladoga. The last railway connection of Leningrad was severed on the 30th of August when Germans reached the Neva River. On September 8th, the road to the besieged city was severed when the Germans reached Lake Ladoga at Schlesselburg, leaving just a corridor of land between Lake Ladoga and Leningrad, which remained unoccupied by Axis forces. Bombing on September 8th caused 178 fires. On September 21st, the German High Command considered the options of how to destroy Leningrad. Simply occupying the city was ruled out, because it would make us responsible for its food supplies, and the resolution was laid to lay the city under siege, and the bombardment starving its population. Early next year, we enter the city. If the Finns do first, we do not object. Lead those still alive in inner Russia or into captivity. Wipe Leningrad from the face of the earth through demolitions, and hand the area north of the Neva to the Finns. On the 7th of October, Hitler sent a further directive signed by Alfred Jodo. Remaining Army Group North is not accepted. Army Group North not to accept capitulation. By August 1941, the Finns had advanced within 20 kilometers of the northern suburbs of Leningrad. At the 1939 Finnish-Soviet border, threatening the city from the north, they also advanced through East Karelia, east of Lake Ladoga. Threatening the city from the east, the Finns crossed the pre-winter war border in Kalin I can't pronounce it, I apologize there. By eliminating Soviet assailants in Belkorostov, and I'm sorry for I can't pronounce it, straining the front line so that it ran along the old border near the shores of the Gulf of Finland and Lake Ladoga, and those positions closest resistance by the Kalin fortified region. However, Finnish troops had already, earlier in August 1941, received orders to halt the advance after reaching their goals, some which lay beyond the pre-winter border. After reaching their respected goals, the Finns halted their advance, starting to move to East Karelia. For the next 3 years, the Finns did little to contribute to the Battle of Leningrad, maintaining their lines. Their headquarters rejected German pleas for aerial attacks against Leningrad. It did not advance farther south from the Siv River in occupied East Karelia, 160 kilometers northeast of Leningrad. And that's so yeah, you guys can really understand that, like I said, the magnitude and the brutality of the siege of Leningrad, and the siege of Leningrad was so horrible on a scale never seen before, because of all the civilians that starved, and sometimes with me as a German citizen, because of my German heritage, I sometimes feel ashamed because of the Leningrad, the prolonged military blockade of Leningrad by Army Group North. And yeah, and for you people that gotta understand, Hitler's crazy and psychotic mind, kind of really started spiraling out of control after the First World War and the subsequent defeat of Germany. And with the Treaty of Versailles, which started World War II, it specifically forbade Germany from having any tanks, any sort of armored track vehicles, aircraft. Their army was reduced to 100,000 men. They had no general staff structure, mind you. And then Hitler, being one of the embittered German veterans of the First World War, Hitler in the later years of the war, in the later years of World War II, did not feel safe. So he got his chief architect, Albert Speer, to undertake the building of the Führer bunker. And the Führer bunker was impervious to anything the Soviets could throw at them. Bombs from the air, artillery and that, from SPGs, self-propelled guns, or from any sort of artillery that the Soviets had. So yeah, like I said, the siege of Leningrad, like I said, it was the longest and most destructive sieges in history, and the possibly the colossal of the terms of the casualties, because on both sides, like I said, Germany lost a lot of troops and lost a lot of equipment in that, and obviously so did Germany's allies, Finland, and that. So for you people in that, you must not forget the ultimate sacrifice that the Soviet Red Army not only did in defeating Nazi Germany in the end of World War II, but we also have to not forget the ultimate sacrifices that the German military, the Wehrmacht, made too. Because there were some people that were loyal and fanatic to Hitler and the Nazi Party, like before World War II. Everyone, anybody that joined the German army, basically they swore allegiance to Germany. But when Hitler came to power in January of 1933, he basically said, "Listen, you do not swear allegiance to Germany. You are swearing allegiance to me, Adolf Hitler." And yeah, so like we shouldn't forget, that like I said, World War II was the most destructive war in the his in human history because of the size of the magnitude of like the casualties among like the military casualties, the civilian casualties, and that because of all this and that. What else? And even during World War II, like there was some generals that opposed Hitler and that because they thought Hitler's plans that were a little crazy and psychotic. Like some of the people that opposed him were like people like Heinz Guderian. He was one of the people that did, and there was people like Gerd von Rundstedt and people like that. And most of the commanders in that of the German army, basically they didn't dare question Hitler because basically it was back then, basically despite the brutal reputation of the German Wehrmacht and any of the Waffen-SS units in World War II, basically it was anybody that disobeyed an order. Basically, they had to follow orders. Otherwise they'd send an SS execution squad after not only you but your family, and they would take you wherever, and they would literally execute you, like type of thing, and that. And for you people that may not know what the Waffen-SS is, the Waffen-SS was an armed military wing of the Nazi regime, and the Waffen-SS grew out of Hitler's Schutzstaffel, his unit of personal bodyguards, and that. But and one of the most famous military units of the Waffen-SS during World War II was the 1st SS Panzer Division Leibstandarte, basically Hitler's personal bodyguard and that. And some German generals even criticized the Waffen-SS for lacking traditional military expertise in that. Even they even didn't consider the leadership qualities of the commander of the 1st SS Panzer Division Leibstandarte, Sepp Dietrich, who by the way was only a sergeant in the First World War, and Sepp Dietrich never enjoyed any higher military training whatsoever in that, and that lack of higher military training came apparent on the battlefield, and that like I said, during Operation Barbarossa, the German army had not only German units, but they also had maybe a couple Italian units, Romanian units, basically anybody that was an ally of Germany. Like I said, whether it be Finland or Italy or Romania or Hungary, and that. What was I gonna say? So you people really have to understand the magnitude and that of this of World War II, because like I said, it's the most bloody war in human history, and that. What else? On that very note, this has been another of my edition of my show, the Stuart Dahl Show. For you young people, hey, you stay in school, you stay out of trouble, and you'll do totally fine. And please do not forget to remember the ultimate sacrifices, like I said, that the Soviet Red Army made, but not only that, the German Wehrmacht and its allies made too. Despite the bloody fighting between the two, But on that note, Alvida Zane, peace, bye bye, and stay cool, my friends.